Stranger Things may be over, but the post-finale mania has just started. And because it's been released, I don't have to worry so much about non-disclosure agreements, which means I can talk about what it was like to work on the show. And there's definitely some things about the production that are gonna surprise you. So I worked on the show for about 3 days, and I was cast as both a Hawkins military police officer and as possibly a military surgeon. The way that it works with casting for background is very similar for most shows. They give it to a casting company that's in charge of just background, and they put it up on Facebook and some other casting sites for the things they're looking for characters, and then you send in an email and you send in a photo and hope that you've got the look they're going for. Luckily for me, I've got a very strong military/police look about me. And another thing that works for me is a lot of times they're looking for people with real world experience, and that goes especially for people in medical fields like nurses and doctors. And so that helped me get cast. Since Stranger Things is a period show and the costumes are very, very specific, they had me and just about everybody else come in several days, I think it was even like a week or 2 weeks beforehand, to go in to check costumes, take pictures, and then do hair and makeup. The reason they do that instead of doing it like in the morning like a lot of shows are is because they don't want surprises, they want to make sure you fit, they don't want something to look disheveled or not fit you on the day of, they want to check your hair to make sure it looks like it's going to fit in for the scene. I think they probably also use it to really vet people and be sure this is what you're going to get on the day that they ask you to be on. For background casting, when they ask you for photos, they don't want you to generally send in headshots. One of the problems with a headshot is you look your best with a headshot. They don't want that because you could, look really good one day and then now you're having a terrible skin day or you've got a different haircut. They don't want a surprise. They want to look right now at what you look like, no filters, not on a good day, something very recent. About 80% of shows do hair, makeup, and costume the morning of the show, usually because they don't have to change a whole lot. Usually they have a lot of different costumes they can use, they have options. If you don't look right, they can switch you out to something new. Stranger Things, didn't want that surprise, and because things were very specific, they'd rather figure it out and not have to mess up the schedule or get someone who they just can't use for the day. A funny thing is that despite it having a $700 million budget, the studio that it shot at is a little bit old and it shows wear and tear from the years. It's because they don't seem like they're spending a lot of money on just basic cosmetic upkeep. One example is the hair and makeup area offset where people were doing their prep or pre-checks. It was in an area called the Crow's Nest, which is on the side of a sound studio on the second floor with like an outside staircase to get up to it. And the staircase was kind of rusted out. It had a satellite dish out in front of it, which was kind of, rusted and looked like it had not been used since the 90s. It's something that, you think you spend some money, paint it, or make it look a little bit nicer, but really, no, they don't put money towards that. A big secret behind the scenes is budgets are not used for things that are not seen on camera. If you're not going to, be using it, there's no reason it needs to look good. The glamour is just for on camera. Things are much more bare bones or a lot more, I don't want to say shoddy looking, but not dressed up offset. As soon as you're on set, things look beautiful, but offset, they're not spending money on that. I remember one day on set on the Naked Gun reboot when we were filming in downtown Atlanta, they had it all dressed up to look like LA, and the area they were using as a green room for, the name celebrities, it was just a maintenance shed kind of at the side of another building. And if you looked inside, there was really nothing inside except a folding chair, a 24-pack of bottled water, and just Liam Neeson sitting there. It wasn't all dolled up. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't fancy. It was just bare bones what they needed for that day. And that's really what it is. Sometimes people do get things written in their contract or certain necessities that they want, but I wouldn't be surprised if many big-name celebrities didn't make a big deal about those things just so that they're easier to work with. They know what the gig is, they know that they need to save money, so a lot of them don't necessarily want to be a diva. They just, okay, let's, deal with what we've got here, especially when you're on location shooting. You don't always have a great option, and they don't want to have to spend, an hour making a random room really nice for someone who's only going to be there a few minutes. Since we're talking about stars and celebrities, let's talk about the stars of the show that I got to work directly with. So, I never got to be a surgeon, so I didn't do any of those scenes. They didn't call me back for that. But I did do 3 days as a Hawkins military police officer. Because of that, the only main characters I worked with were Derek Turnbow, who is played by Jake Connolly, and Dr. K, who is played by the legendary Linda Hamilton. Now, Jake Connolly, he looks a bit older and taller, bigger in general, than you think when you see him on TV. I think a lot of it is the camera angles that they're using and the fact that a lot of the children are really a little bit older than they're trying to portray. I think he's like 12 to 13 years old in real life right now, but he looks to me like he's like 10-ish or younger possibly on the show. But in real life, he was like, okay, he's 5'6", and somewhat, that's not terribly shorter than me. But like he looked much more like a young adult than a child. But it's just movie magic. It's if you use certain angles, if you put kids next to each other, or you put everybody who looks like a kid next to each other, if they're all the same height, you really can't tell relatively how big or small someone is. Another fun thing, we were shooting one of the scenes where he was basically brought into Hawkins to infiltrate them on behalf of the kids. And at one point, they were bringing busfuls of the children in to the encampment. And during that, what was funny that was going on is the kids just treated it like it was a regular day and we were real military. So like when they do one where they do the shot and then they'd call cut, and obviously you have to drive the buses back full of kids. So when they would drive back, the kids know that the cameras aren't rolling so they can be themselves, and they would like wave to us while we're like out there with our big fake rubber guns, and like a couple of them would like just like salute like that, like thank you for your service, and you're like, okay, yeah, not military, but thank you for your fake service. And that was fun. The kids enjoyed it, but you could tell after doing so many takes, they got more and more tired by the end of the day. But it was still a lot of fun working with all of them. Linda Hamilton was there for just one of the days. It was a late night, and it was in the actual series before the title crawl in the very last episode. Very professional the entire time she was there. She was only on set when needed, which is very normal for celebrities or big names. She did have to do the thing where you kind of have to like network and get introduced to everybody on set. Not any of us because we're all background, but anybody who's higher up on the cast and crew. Whoever's handling you is going to go over and like introduce you like, oh, this is the assistant director, this is the director, this is, our cinematographer. And, you have to, be nice and say hi and make a little small talk. I feel for her a little bit because it was like midnight to 2 a.m. It was I think it was December, but it was freezing cold. No one was happy. We were using up all the hot hands we could. And I'm sure she was just playing the game and being nice because it was not very comfortable there, and she was not dressed appropriately for the weather because we're all in costumes. Like, the military gear was nice, that it was a little bit of protection, but it really wasn't enough for how cold it was, and she was dressed similarly. But she was still wonderful for what, she had to do. I'm sure a lot of you are asking, in your heads at least, what was Millie Bobby Brown like? Sadly, I was only in downtown Hawkins in the military encampment, so there were not any scenes that I was shooting that she was also in. I don't remember if she did have any down there. I think she might have been in a couple in that area, but not on the days that I was shooting. So I didn't get to work with her on Stranger Things. I cannot necessarily say if I've worked with her before because, non-disclosure agreements. But I can say that there was a film called Just Picture It, recently shot in Atlanta in the fall, that's going to come out, I think, sometime next year. She was in that. Who knows? Maybe I can talk about that film later. But I can at least say that I did not work with her on Stranger Things. One more thing that people don't really know or probably don't know is that the shoot tried to keep as much about it secret as possible. More than most sets. Now, to give you an idea, generally on sets, there's a no phones on set policy. You're supposed to, leave it back in holding. Sometimes they let you keep it in your pocket, but they really don't want to see them out. They don't want people taking photos or videos, anything that could be a spoiler. And each set's a little bit different on how aggressive they are. Some are super aggressive, some are not. Generally, if it's a show that doesn't have a lot of secrets or is not well known, they're a little bit more lenient. If they're working with background actors that are very professional, like a small group, and are trustworthy, they'll let you keep your phone and maybe use it in between takes. It is nice to have when you've got a really slow shoot, like Righteous Gemstones, really slow. If we didn't have our cell phones, we would have gone crazy because you got 15, 20 minutes before shoots. So they're a lot more lenient. Other ones, especially like a period piece, like if you like a Fight Night was a period piece, you're not allowed to have phones because if you could see it in a pocket, it completely ruins the scene. They can't use it. So they're a lot more aggressive with keeping the phones off. With this, you weren't even allowed to have your phone in holding and offset holding. So as soon as you checked in with a production assistant, they would take your phone, they would put it into a bag, seal it, lock it up, and it wouldn't be able to get any light. And I think it also blocked any signals going back and forth because they did not want any chance of someone actually taking pictures and sending out anything that could be a spoiler. In fact, one of the days when we came back, someone got their phone, they took a selfie with it, a production assistant saw it and forced him to open it up, show him the photo, delete it in front of him, and I think he got a stern warning. I don't think he got blackballed, but it is something that they don't mess with it. I have not seen someone respond that strongly, sternly, and quickly to someone taking a picture or selfie, because usually they'll be like, hey, don't do that, delete that photo. This one, they watched him delete it, and they would say that Netflix will sue you, and they'll sue for like $10,000. I haven't heard of anybody being sued. I've worked on other Netflix productions where people have been doing that, and they've posted spoilers, like Cobra Kai was terrible about that. A lot of people were filming, and a lot of people posted things that they really shouldn't have. But a lot of times they have a hard time tracking down who took them, even when the people take themselves in the photos. But it's something that's not really good to do. Here they were really making sure that that didn't happen because it's Stranger Things. Everyone wants to know what's going on. There's probably tons of people talking about it, and they really wanted no chance of a background actor spilling the beans. So I think that's it for Stranger Things. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something. If there's anything that you want to know about what it's like on set or what the experience was like on Stranger Things, let me know in the comments. If there's anything that you thought was impressive or amazing about the finale, also let me know. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm Frank Ciopatini with Servetti Software, and I'll see you in the next one. Servetti helps services run better. For a demo or free trial, email frank@servetti.com or leave a comment.